What's up, my man?
How we doing, man?
Good.
Yeah, I was excited. You got the fight song rolling. We heard that about 6 or 7 times the other night. It was good night in the swamp, man.
Yeah. What do you attribute this turnaround? Is it? Look, I point back and I wonder what it did, what sparked it key, but he made a big deal about the bye week of practicing them hard, right? Maybe not Urban's Bloody Tuesday, but certainly going hard during that week. But it's a team that looks like it's kind of growing up and getting a lot more consistent in front of our eyes. Is that accurate or is it overstated?
It seems to be accurate, and I look at a couple different things. You can certainly look at the defense, which is much improved. We can't undersell that at all.
Right.
It's kind of a impressive real debut for DJ Lagway as the starting quarterback. I don't count that Sanford for a game, but
right.
I think the thing that was most impressive to me is this was a really good Kentucky run defense, and we lined up and moved them off the line of scrimmage. I mean, the defensive line is good. Deion Walker was getting moved off the line of scrimmage time and time again. I don't know where the offensive line play came from all of a sudden, but you have them blocking. You got a freshman in Jadan Baugh that goes over 100 yards. That was impressive as hell, and a freshman quarterback that looked like he was cool, calm, and collected for the most part. There's kind of a lot to be excited and optimistic about. I'll be honest with you. I'm a little nervous about being optimistic about it because I don't want to be let down again. But, 2 weeks in a row, you get a solid performance, and you just think, man, what would have happened if they could have scored some points in the first half last week, and we'd be sitting at 5-2 and probably ranked in the top 25.
Yeah, and maybe this is what Billy Napier thought his team was going to be, in September or at the end of August, and they weren't ready yet. They weren't there yet.
That's the problem. Why? Why weren't you ready?
That's a great question. I don't know.
We're wondering that here with the Jaguars. It's real similar.
Yeah.
You mentioned being able to, practice those guys harder like that. That's the kind of stuff that should be happening in the off season. You should have these physical practices. I understand, the minimization of hitting, and I understand the concern for injuries and keeping guys fresh. But I still think that this is a sport that requires physical practices. And you look at what Georgia did on Saturday, the way that they hit Texas on offense, on defense, you have to have a level of physicality. And I think somehow Florida's developed it, and I just wish we knew where it was in the preseason.
All right, so the hypothetical question going around that we're all talking about is, what has to happen as we enter this stretch of football games? In other words, Billy Napier, we just ask if your opinion. If Billy Napier gets to 6-6, if he wins a couple games and gets to a bowl game, is he back in 25?
I go back to what I said in the preseason, and really, to me, it's not as much about the wins as it is the aesthetics of the games. And, the bad part about losing the way that we did to Miami and A&M, I think in hindsight right now, maybe those losses aren't as bad as what they appear to be. But the problem is that we got physically manhandled on the lines of scrimmage. We looked completely inept. Those were the things that stood out. I think that was the major indictment of where this program was. Now, if you can go back, even I hate to say we don't deal in moral victories, but the game against Tennessee last week felt a bit like a moral victory because of how good you looked on defense and what you were able to do moving the ball. You didn't finish drives, but there were some things to be excited about. If you can be really competitive with these teams, I honestly believe that Florida's able to get to. I think they'll get bowl eligible from what I've seen right now. And if you can do all of that and be competitive with some of the teams like Georgia and be competitive with LSU and Ole Miss, I think that there is a chance that you could have him back for another year, particularly because you're seeing so many of the freshmen be major contributors right now, and I think that provides hope, and hope's a powerful force.
Yeah. Well, it for sure is. I think moral victories. You find out about moral victories the next week. Yeah, it's a moral. If you turn around and it inspires you to play like that against Kentucky, then maybe there was a bit of a moral victory in that win. Chris, the comparative score game is a dangerous one to play, but let me also give you college football fan logic. Okay, let me see here. Let's see. Florida went to Tennessee and tied them. Alabama went to Tennessee and got beat straight up. Georgia went to Alabama and lost. So naturally, Florida's going to beat Georgia by a field goal, Chris. That's how college football fans work things out. But in all seriousness, Florida beats Mississippi State by the same kind of spread that Georgia and Texas A&M beats Mississippi State. Florida peppers a Kentucky team that lost to Georgia by 1, that won at Ole Miss. It feels like Florida is elevating itself closer to that more talented group at the top than the least talented at the very bottom, at least. And there were times this year where you might have put them 16 in that SEC power poll.
Yeah, it does feel that way. And just as I said before, like, hey, there's no downside in losing to an undefeated Miami team or the A&M team that's at the top of the SEC standings. I also look and see, like, well, who has Florida beat that's worth a damn right now? And I think Kentucky's regressing. Obviously Mississippi State, I think, is getting a little bit better, but where they started from, there wasn't much room to go down from there anyway. I think the standpoint of being competitive, you're seeing the lines of scrimmage improve, and I think that's helping to make the gap look less than what it was. Now, the ultimate litmus test is 2 weeks over there in your backyard. Mm-hmm. I think that's where Florida fans have maybe been the most frustrated in recent years. Is just Florida's not only not been able to beat Georgia, but it looks like two separate conferences with what Florida was playing in versus what Georgia's playing in. So I think that's going to tell a lot, but I honestly believe that this is a league that is filled with parity right now. There's a lot of teams that play inconsistently from week to week, and I think you're starting to see teams that can maybe smooth out some of those valleys and play a little bit more towards the peaks. You're seeing those teams kind of separate themselves a little bit right now.
Chris, does it matter that the kids seem to play hard for Napier, seem to like Napier, seem to want to play for Napier? Does that factor in, or does that not matter?
It does matter to me, man. And it's like, I like the guy so much. He's such a good guy, and he sincerely seems to care about his players, and he cares about the University of Florida. And it seems much different than some of the coaches that we've had in the past. But yet, at the end of the day, the wins and losses are the bottom line.
Right.
The product on the field does matter. But, in that locker room, you listen to Graham Mertz talk about the way that he adores Coach Napier and how hard he wants to help this program out now. And DJ seems to really like him. Like, I don't love the offense that we're playing in, but somehow it's starting to work a little bit better. And maybe it's just a matter of getting the right pieces in the right places. But these guys do seem committed to Coach Napier. I do think if he does stay in the future, you got to make some adjustments on the coaching staff. I think that's been one of the major, downfalls of the program in the last couple of years, is not having the right members of the staff and having some continuity there. But that too seems like it's being figured out. Like, the defensive staff was in disarray from everything that I heard in the first month of the season, and now it seems like that side of the ball has things figured out. And so maybe you make some tweaks and kind of put people in the right places. But the other question I ask you, like, if you go get rid of Billy Napier, who are you going to go get that you know is a home run? Even the guys that we were talking about, even Blake Given that we talked about a month ago, seems to be a little less of a bright star than he once was earlier in the year.
Well, it's fair questions. They're all fair questions. A lot to sort out there. I think that I will continue to say, and again, it's early in his career, but the Lagway kid does look special. He looks like he has that it factor. He and a lot of poise for a true freshman, man.
He does, and I felt guilty. I came on time and time again with you guys and said, look, playing a true freshman in the SEC is not ideal.
Right.
Graham Mertz gives Florida the best chance to win. Well, Graham Mertz is not able to play anymore due to the injury, so you are left with playing a freshman quarterback. But seeing him out there, this was not Stanford. This was, again, a good defense.
Really good defense.
Yeah. And from the get-go, I do think they need to use him running the ball a little bit more like they did early in the game. I think they got away from that, and that caused the offense to bog down a little bit. But his ability to throw the deep ball is pretty impressive, and I think he hits the over routes well. Obviously, I want to see more than 7 completions on the night, but I do think that they can figure out how to use him. The biggest thing is you got to eliminate that interception was a terrible interception, but that comes along with being
he's going to make some mistakes, right?
Yeah,
right.
you gotta live with some of that. But I do think that there is a ton of upside, and I think the quarterback's most important job is elevating the play of the other 10 guys in the huddle, and I think he certainly does that because of that it factor you talked about.
Hey guys, Taylor Dahl here. Thanks so much for checking out our 1010XL Florida Gators page. If you're looking for more Florida content, subscribe now. But if you're looking for some professional football, NFL content, head over to our 1010XL Jaguars page.